you today?
I am good. How are you today?
It's quite sweet, isn't it? We spoke last week. Now this week, are we going to just have like a little weekly check-in?
Yeah.
Oh, listen, thanks again for speaking, but also, I suppose basically it was just to say thanks so much for doing a remix. I mean, we have collaborated now, but basically we approached you to do a remix, knowing that you do so much. You have so much musical output of a kind of minimalist, classical nature and techno, ambient techno, and you remix a little bit, but you don't remix very much. So I guess so. Thank you, because that's really cool. You did that for me.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Like I just love the song, like the first line. Maybe you can sing it.
I've forgotten myself.
So long, sweetness.
So long, sweetness, we've got to go.
Yeah, and like I mean that's kind of that for me is like the whole that's got the whole soul of the song like right in that first line. So I knew that I wanted to just try to like extend that feeling of soulfulness and just kind of like just stay in that line, you know, and not go off into too many other ideas, because there's actually the whole chorus of the song which is massive and euphoric, and I just like got rid of all of that. Yeah, got rid of all of that because I just felt like I couldn't really do anything better with it than the original. But I thought that there was a lot to explore just in that one line, you know, like the feeling of it. And so I thought I could like reinterpret, yeah, just sort of like try to like expand on the soulfulness of that one line.
That's really interesting, because that was sort of the whole point of asking people to remix. Well, it was a two-pronged thought, which was, oh my God, we're in a pandemic. I have no idea how to operate now. And wouldn't it be amazing to reach out to people with that, I don't know, that sort of blitz spirit of like, no one can travel. You probably aren't in an airport or a hotel or in a studio necessarily. I wonder if you'll reply. So that feeling of like wanting connection, but you know, which has been amazingly reciprocated. But also wondering, like, I wonder what sort of playthings we could have, you know, sort of how could you make a remix and just play with it for fun. And so it's you know, it's really good when people have sent things back and they've obviously just got into one aspect of it and gone, oh yeah, I got really obsessed by this bit, or whatever it was. Just it's just sort of a way of having some kind of playfulness in life, I think, during this really, you know, insane time.
No, totally. I mean, like in a world where I just feel like all opportunities are being like obliterated and taken away, it was like so nice to receive your request and like someone that's got a vision for doing something in this time. And then also the thing that like is the reason why I don't remix so often is because the point of remixing is mainly to like take something into like a club direction, or like try and fit it into this club world or a pop world, or I don't know, there's always a lot of like limitations that come with having to remix something. And then I don't know, it's like it can be really hard to try and take a song and like put it into techno, or like it's hard to have like a success within that. And the cool thing about the pandemic and the fact that, well, not the cool thing, but you know, clubs are shut, so it's almost like club music just has no context right now. It's just been like wiped out. So it was really amazing for me to finally be able to remix, but not have to know that why people are coming to me is because they want something to be like in that clubby side of electronic music. So what I made is very electronic, like with all my analog synthesis and stuff, and like, but like nothing is, there was no like genre expectation. I felt like I could just,
quite good, isn't it, when even like collaborating. So I've just sung on some work that you're going to put out later in the year, but in both those instances, maybe because of the pandemic, there was no talk of the commerciality of it, you know, like the commodity that it might become. Played no part. It was just, here's some music, will you sing? Here's some music, will you remix? And it was, like I say, it's that playfulness that was really appealing. And
Yeah, I really
very,
think that,
very freeing.
yeah, no, I mean that's my hope and dream for like the next decade of music, that artists will just, it will just become really normal to connect directly, invent new forms of music, like have less middle layer management involved in everything, and ideas coming from the artist's collaboration and not like from a place of marketing always. So like I have like a big I see like a big light at the end of the tunnel, because I think that people through necessity, like they have to connect more. And yeah, I just hope that the music industry will just take a bit of a back seat and let artists just do what they do best through this time, you know, and like create pieces of work. And it's just about creation first, because I think that hasn't really happened for like since the 80s possibly. People always talk about like, why was the music so good in the 80s, and it's like because artists were connecting and jamming and playing in each other's bands and co-writing songs, and you know, artists were like in studios together and doing all of that stuff. And yeah, I just feel like the management aspect of the music industry just grew way too like dominant and makes everything unnecessarily complicated.
Also, there was just so much more money sloshing around, wasn't there? Because people were buying hard copies of things, and now we just live in this world where we can't really quantify what we do, because I mean, Spotify don't necessarily, you know, well, labels don't reveal what they're earning from Spotify. It's very hard, you know, it's something, you know, if I get statements and things from my royalties, you know, I could sit down and spend all day tracing through and work out, you know, what territories are streaming more often. And hey, look, maybe I should, but it's the last of my worries during the day. But it's just really hard to pinpoint.
I think like the money
monetize, and you can't predict what you may earn, and you know, the whole thing is just it's just so vast, isn't it? It's just like a vast
platforms.
Yeah,
Platforms and algorithms. But I don't know, I think it's just in like, I think this whole world of like streaming and algorithmic like music and consuming is just in its like infancy. We haven't really perfected the most important part, which is how artists are paid and paid fairly. So I think like we're only just starting to grasp that that's not right and we need to do something about it. But it's really hard to do something. It's like it's hard to change a running system because the prices and the value have already been decided for us, but none of us were consulted.
None of us were consulted.
Yeah, it just like ended up that way. So it's really hard. Like I'm also in the same position where I should sit down, I should just take 6 months off and go through everything and check everything. Maybe I will, but
yeah, maybe I will now. Now I've said it.
maybe that, let's not do any more music, let's just do that. But yeah, I think until artists like can be bothered to check all of that stuff. And
it's amazing the campaign that Tom Gray? I don't know.
Yeah, he's the savior. He's the savior, Lord.
Yeah, I mean, he's just doing a momentous thing, and obviously, I'm sure you and I both have been clicking and supporting and signing.
Yeah,
and you know, he's doing a very good thing, and he's extremely articulate, and he's obviously putting the time in, and so much respect for him. But sort of they've presented the inquiry now, haven't they? And the music industry have presented their figures of you know, their not monetary figures, their representatives have spoken. I don't know if you saw any clips of that.
I've watched all of it.
It's pretty funny.
I'm sorry, I haven't watched the recent one with the indie labels. I'm going to watch that soon. But yeah, it was incredible from the first one where like everyone was like, the artists were like terrified to say anything wrong, and then to the next one where it was like the major labels were also terrified to reveal things. And I haven't watched the indie one, but I will. But I think the MPs are doing an absolutely cracking job,
weren't they? They were really pushy and just putting the pressure on to define, you know, because everybody was trying not to define
what it is,
or reveal anything or get into trouble. And it's just like, it's all such bullshit. Let's be transparent and make this work. Otherwise, artists will come and go very quickly. You know, labels will be, big labels will just be constantly developing new talent. It will then move on to get fucked off and spat out. I mean, it's, you know, everything I look at in life now is about sustainability. It would be far better for everybody to get paid more fairly and have a long career with great output, their experience growing year on year, each studio visit, each new track, growing in artistic ambition. And, you know, that's what happens when you sustain someone's artistry.
Yeah, totally.
And people need a modest living. People need to have a modest living to keep building on that.
No, totally. Yeah, it's so true what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I've started this Patreon account which I've had going for since like September last year, and that's incredible because I don't have any more like anonymous statistics of like people. I don't know who they are. So it's like I've got like a smaller group now, and they subscribe to me directly, and I'm getting to know people on a personal level. And I also compose music just for a couple of people. I'm like a personal composer. Yeah.
I have heard of Patreon, but I haven't investigated it. But
yeah,
you think it's good? Yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Like if you're somebody that gets a lot of inspiration and likes to have like a feedback about their work and likes to share, you know, if you're comfortable, like
need some emotional reassurance.
Yeah, that's what it's great. That's what it's great for. But also like, you know, I just learned so many stories. Like somebody told me they gave birth to my music, somebody else expressed like the hard times, and someone else sleeps to this specific song like every night since 3 years. And like you never get to learn about any of that stuff, like the other side of the platform. You just get stats, like it just goes one way. So I've been learning so much about like the value that my music has for people like all over the world. And it just really made me recognize that there is like a meaning in what I'm doing for other people. And that's something that these like powerful algorithms and business heads, like they just don't, that just gets overlooked. That's like an afterthought, you know. Nobody in that world seems to really understand what it is they're selling, because if they did, they wouldn't sell it in such a like atrocious manner with disregard to all of the people, because these systems exist because of us, because of creatives. So like for us to just be like put in the worst position,
like minions, so we make it all and then we then we hang around wondering if we'll get more than sort of 24 pence.
It's just like it's just ludicrous, like, and that's why I think it's great that these MPs have stepped in, because they're, you know, they're unbiased, they're politicians, and they're just looking at structures and systems and business. And
I'm sure there'll be some bias in it somewhere, but so far speakers that I've heard were really very good, very probing, and looking like they were taking the responsibility of the investigation.
They're getting their heads around it. I mean, if I explain this stuff to anyone else that's not in music, everyone is just immediately like, that doesn't sound right. But in the music world, it's totally fine. It's like the music world has just made its own, you know, structure, and it's like a parallel universe. But yeah, what I wanted to say is like the more people that recognize that they don't have to do it this way and find other ways, you know, the more musicians that go onto Patreon, the more that we nurture these other platforms that really are there for creatives, like the better it's going to be for us. You know, do
you create exclusive music and videos for Patreon, stuff that people can't find elsewhere? Is that the whole point?
I mean, yeah, I mean, the main thing that I share is like my thoughts on, like today I wrote a really big post on mastering, and I shared like a pre-mastered version and then the final song. And I've got lots of just like music and bits over the years that I show, you know, like different stages in projects. So I'm mainly just sharing like my creativity. Sometimes I just make a little video. I showed everyone in my studio like what I have and how I use it. So it's more about like sharing me as a creative, and then there's music in with that. But I don't treat it, I don't approach it like a exclusive distribution service or something. It's like I try to just
You
approach
feel
it
quite casual and emotional and intimate about it, you know.
yeah, it's like me the artist, it's not me the product. It's not like another platform with specific products that you can't get anywhere else. It's like, it's just I'm able to be who I am in a more wholesome way.
Oh,
and like that's what people really connect to, because for the people, they also just get the product like in their phone and they want to know more.
did you feel instantly quite comfortable, and this question's sort of a broad question, not just about, you know, the platform that you mentioned, but have you always felt quite comfortable sort of speaking to an anonymous audience on your, you know, filming yourself discussing something? You know, I still find that a bit of a stumbling block. I will do it and I am doing it, but I find it I'm very self-conscious.
Yeah, I mean it is kind of strange, but I just try to like embrace it as a new language or a new way.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, actually.
And like
It is a language. It's a
like
a channel of communication.
you can be self-conscious always, like meeting someone. Like I feel more uncomfortable like having like a lunch meeting in a bar with an agent. Like I feel more uncomfortable, you know, there. Like it's way nicer to just be in your own making a video where you can focus on your train of thought and then you put it out there and you don't have to look what the feedback is or not. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like in real life when you sit with somebody and they ask you some weird stuff and you get stuck in a strange conversation and it's much harder to like direct. So it's sort of like you can direct what you want to say in a much clearer way.
Yeah, I like your comment on direction. Maybe that's maybe I'll investigate this.
Try it out. Like I'm sure you'll find your own style with it. You don't have to be like a TV presenter. You don't even have to have you could just do it like not you. I do them often not even looking in the camera. I'm just talking near the camera and showing people stuff. Like that's how I get around it.
Yeah. And I was going to say, in terms of any piece of new work that you're going to start, obviously something starts in your head, but do you play it? But like, is your go-to instrument sort of some piece of hardware where you are? I know you've got your Selena behind you and something else, or do you sort of start with software and sort of creating like loops or beats first? Where do you feel most comfortable when you're like giving birth to the first little essential piece? Piano. Yeah, I wondered that. I thought so.
Yeah, because it's just all there. It's like, you know, you can have harmony and melody, or you have your little melody and then you try to find the harmony and a couple of the chords are a bit rubbish and you search a bit more. And the piano, it's like the piano is like water. It's such a neutral thing, you know, where if I started with a synth, you know, it would immediately be so like colorful and it would so clearly be like a bass line. Sometimes it would like, then I would forget the little melody in my head, you know, like I can't start with anything that's too strong, because you know when you have this tiny little melody but it's not really existing anywhere yet, it doesn't have lyrics in there. It's so easy to forget.
There's like an echo of a melody that happened earlier on and you have to kind of like pull it back into the present moment, don't you? I'm awful at forgetting things immediately. I might sort of just be working intuitively on something and just singing something out loud and it's gone. At the minute I think that was quite interesting, now I'll do it properly, or I'll try and you know, it's gone. I just have to rely on like always having myself on record, or if I'm sat at the piano, which I don't play well, but I use just to get kind of like very simple chord progressions. Gotta have my phone running because I'll be mouthing along with it's gone, you know. And I actually kind of appreciate that, because I feel like, well, when that happens, I'm really channeling something from another frequency, or I'm not, you know, I'm really not in that front part of your brain that's thinking and quite ego-led. It has to be from somewhere. It has to be from a sort of different antennae coming in, you know. And so my forgetfulness with it, I'm quite loving about my forgetfulness and think, okay, how can I make sure that I capture all these early little melodies or early phrases? Just make sure you've got just stuff recording.
Yeah, no, I've got
it does come in from a different place to the, you know, the place that we're communicating from now.
Like it literally does. It sounds so nuts, but like it literally does. I had such a strong experience the other night in my bed. I was so tired and I just wanted to go to sleep, and I was falling asleep. And then it's like you said, there was something, I just felt like it got sent to me, and it was such a clear, bright melody, and it was just playing like on its own like 4 times, and then it stopped. And I was like, whoa, that was so strong. It's never happened to me before. I really have to find the energy to like get out of bed, not wake up my daughter. And I was trying to play the piano at like 1 a.m. and find it. And yeah, like that doesn't happen so often, but like that was such a, like, just going back to what you say about the antennae, like that really felt like something. Like I really wonder what's going to happen with that melody.
And
like,
you got it down though. You got it down.
I got it down. I got it down, but it scares me a little bit because I feel like it came from like aliens or something, and I don't know like what the next part of it should be. So I quite often just wait and see if I get any more messages. Yeah. So I mean, how do you work? Do you like force to write a song based on a tiny thing, or do you just let it sit there and it comes together really slow?
I mean, I suppose nearly all my work is a collaboration with someone, and often my partner Toby. So I'm presented with really like sketches first, sketches of, it might be ambient drones, it might be a guitar or a bass line. More often now, it's electronic blips and synth. It's quite drony, and then I just start to work on top and just let sections sort of spill out from me. And I get so much joy from, I'd call it busking. So I'll sort of say, yeah, I'm just going to get in here and with the studio, I'll just be a couple of hours, I'm just going to busk a load of shit on this, you know, and I just privately busk. I just sing anything and have no worries about the words. Occasionally a word will recur, and if it's strong and has sort of symbolic value for me, you know, I'll make sure it's kept in there. But otherwise, it's almost just like I use phrases and onomatopoeic expression just to kind of create rhythm and create a pace to the song. Mm-hmm. And then I just love chopping it up. I've learned, you know, since, I don't know, years and years ago, first learning how to use Pro Tools and Logic, and I, you know, I don't know all the shortcuts and I'm not brilliant, but I use it for what I need. I just love being able to snip in, keep the parts, and then there's a shape of the frequency of that note and whatever. And yeah, so I tend to work in the computer quite a lot, or I'll sit at a piano and I'll just repeat and repeat until I sort of build something up. And that could be awful for anyone else in the house because I'm just playing the same thing for like 4 hours. But yeah, I've learned to sort of, and I really don't, you know, who knows how to do this properly, because it's not something I went into any formal education to learn. So, and I don't really care because I know what works for me, and I find it really rewarding. But to start singing with very little concrete language, but just, you know, nonsense words, but get a sense of the emotion. So I'll sort of feel my way through a melody, and then add words later, and then constantly revise until I feel like I've got the mot juste, you know, that phrase of just like that fits in really well. I'll never know if something's good or right. It's almost like kind of you shift around until all the stuff that's not right or doesn't feel essential and doesn't feel like it has integrity or staying power, all of that goes until eventually you're left with things where it's like, I think you're beautiful, but I don't know if you're very good. But it's not up to me to decide if you're beautiful or if this is finished. It's up to me to just communicate something that's kind of somewhere between here and here, you know. And if I've communicated and cut out all the excessive, unimportant words or half words, then, you know, what I'm left with, if I feel like it's settled, like it kind of just, yeah, it just lands properly and sort of stands there, I'm like, all right, you're in, let's keep you. So I don't really know. It's just, you know, it's completely comes from an undisciplined space, and it is just intuition, I suppose. But it's all I've ever done, and sometimes it serves me well, and sometimes it's a pile of shit. But I actually love the private, intimate space of all that. I love it.
My favorite thing is like the euphoric side of it, like when I just have a little loop going, and then you like add in some amazing synth parts, and then it's like, okay, have a little break, make a coffee, get ready before the bass line, and then when you like bring in the bass line and all the other bits of decoration, and like, oh man, like I make most of my music like dying for the toilet, like
I know that feeling.
But it's like, and when such a high, and when you finally get through all of the struggle of like, is this, oh, should I just quit everything? And then suddenly it comes together, and then I'm just in my studio, like, and I want to open the window, and I want to like everyone, and like I love that, like that's so addictive. Like, you know, when you finally get the music, and it's like, it's there, you can.
It's all been like this, and suddenly it goes. Yeah. That's so funny what you're saying about needing the toilet. I'm constantly just like, I should nip to the loo, but I feel like I want to hear this one more time to check. Yeah, that feels good. It feels good. It feels right, and you're starting to genuinely feel excitement, and then forget your sort of most basic bodily requirements.
To the toilet, eating some lunch, standing up. Yeah, no, it's funny. Like I think I make most of my music like dying for the toilet. But you just can't.
Maybe we should end there and like both go to pee. You know what I mean?
Bye.